Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, I have foretold on this video, did a heads up on this video a couple of times earlier today, because I think it's such an important video. I think it's such a large issue, such an important issue, that it absolutely needs to be put out there. People need to be aware and to know exactly what kind of shenanigans and cover-ups and secrecy the SNP are doing with regards to financing their electoral campaign. Now, we know they're in deep financial trouble. This is not news. Their last set of audited accounts, which was quite some time ago, showed they were then £800,000 in the hole. I would suspect by the time last year's ones are published, they're going to be maybe 2 million in the hole. They're not getting corporate sponsorship. They've got very few large bequests. The membership numbers are down, and they've still got all those expenses. So I suggest maybe 2 million in the hole, and that will be the last set of audited accounts. Since that point, it could be even worse, and of course, it isn't going to get better. Now, they'll have been propped up, of course, by the banks, but the banks will look at the prospective number of MPs coming after this election and may feel a bit, should we say, wary. They probably, I would suggest, definitely won't be willing to lend any further, extend any credit beyond where they are, and they may even be requesting a reduction in credit and having to have some of that money repaid. And they just haven't got it. This could put the SNP into administration before a vote is cast. Certainly after the votes are cast and when they lose a lot of seats, it's going to get way, way worse. So they are financially down a deep, dark well from which I don't think they can ever recover. There's no climbing out of this, as far as I can tell. Now, that is the past, but the past is prologue, because here we're going to look at what they're doing right now, because they have an election campaign to fund. How on earth are they funding it when they've got no money? Now, we know, for example, they're getting their candidates to pay their own deposits with no guarantee that those deposits will even be saved. I think there'll be a few deposits lost. That's how bad it is there. And there's some candidates are doing GoFundMes. Some have made their target. Most haven't. And of course, if you don't hit your target, you don't get the money that you've raised today. You just don't get any of the money. If you don't hit that target, that money gets put back to those who pledge it. And so they could be in a lot worse position than where they currently think they are. And as we know, elections aren't cheap. Elections are horrendously expensive. And so how are the SNP funding it? Well, it looks like they're breaking not only the rules, but they're breaking the law. It looks like potentially they are stealing their way to funding this election campaign. There's an article here which is saying that the SNP are using public money to fund their party political campaign. That, dear friends, is theft. They are stealing money to push the party campaign. Money that is sent to the running of a government is for government purposes. So if they were writing as a minister or as a member of the Scottish Parliament, they'd be entitled to use postage. They're not entitled to use postage if the things that they're sending out is nothing to do with their job as an MSP or nothing to do with the government position or anything like that, but is for the purposes of campaigning to remain a government minister or whatever. There is a line. There is a line between what's party and what's government. and you cannot use government money to fund party purposes. And yet that's exactly what appears to be happening. So this is in the Scottish Daily Express. Obviously, I can't show it on the screen because I'm doing this here, but it's quite an extensive piece. But I'm just going to highlight the problem because the SNP, first of all, they're being probed. This is absolutely there. Parliamentary authorities are doing the initial probe, but this is an actual crime. So if there's any evidence at all that it's happening, they are obliged to hand this over for a full police investigation. And of course, people will be arrested and questioned. Now, Alison Johnson, who is the chief presiding officer, she's been made aware of these allegations, which we'll get to. And she's the one who's asked the officials to examine all the claims. Now, the claims have been made by an SNP staff member. So this is something that's come from within. And they've provided screenshots and internal communications showing discussions. And so I think we can quite easily say that although, yes, it's only an allegation, it seems to be that this allegation has substance. And if so, who's going to go to prison for this? Now, The Times has published these conversations. There was a chat between a character known as Office Manager, someone called Paul. We don't know any more details about Paul. Paul has said, guys, I'll have to read this, sorry. Guys, the new stamps, can they be traced? And the conversation reportedly involves staff from the offices of Nicola Sturgeon and the Social Justice Secretary, Shirley Ann Somerville, and the Deputy's party leader, Keith Brown. One asked, who purchased them and what are they being used for? And another responds, can they be traced back to who purchased them? One member replies, asked Drab in the mailroom, he said no. Another message reads, if they can, then a few people may be up in front of the corporate body. So at that point, they have admitted that they are breaking the rules. They are using stamps bought for government purposes for electioneering purposes. That's a crime, and they're in on it. And it's the office of Nicola Sturgeon. It's the office of Anne-Marie Somerville. It's the office of Keith Brown, and who knows who else. So these are people who are completely complicit and knowing what they're doing. Is Sturgeon about to be part of a third live police investigation? They think they can get away with this. They think they can get it. But now people within the party are saying no. People within the party, or even SNP people, are questioning this because it is so wrong. And they're scared. They're scared of going up in front of the corporate body, but it's beyond the corporate body. This is an actual crime. They should be scared of going up in front of the judge. Now, the complaint to the presiding officer is said that the person who is complaining that the stamps were paid for by the Scottish parliamentary expenses, Parliament, but being used for election candidates. That's the crime. But they're trying to say that they were trying to do it as government business because they were hard to reach people, which sounds like a complete and utter load of bullshit to me. It's because they've got no money. We've shown the SNP are brassic. They're trying to shave pennies. They're trying to save everything here, save everything there. And if they can save thousands of pounds in postage that the party doesn't have to pay, but they can foist away onto the government, that's thousands of pounds paid for by the people, by the taxpayers. It's a crime. They need to repay it initially. They then need to be prosecuted, fined, jailed if appropriate. And then I think if any politician is involved, those politicians should be disbarred from public office for the remainder of their life. Certainly, any officials must be fired and never work in any capacity like this ever again. Because the use of publicly funded governmental resources for party political means is quite clearly immoral, unethical, and illegal. Who is going to stand and run with this? There's no total value of what these things have come to, but it's claimed that it's in other media, it's claimed that it's running somewhere in the region of many thousands of pounds. Now, when you run a campaign, you actually as well also have to declare what you spend. But if you're sending stuff out and it's on a government charge, it's not coming out of your party, then you won't be declaring that. So you're getting, again, an unfair advantage. The SNP, eh? Every time, it's always the SNP. What a bunch of crooks. Thanks for listening. Bye.